I want to turn from looking pretty to maybe feeling a little better in this environment and talk about what people are consuming in terms of their alcoholic beverages at this time. Let's bring in Gavin Hattersley. He is Molson Coors CEO. Thank you so much for being here, Gavin. You have talked a lot about the switch in people's habits, where obviously they're not going to bars right now because in many cases bars are not open and they're drinking at home. And that has been a real challenge for you guys. How have you been shifting production, shifting where you're sending product to try to adapt to all of this?
Good morning, Judy. Thanks for having me on your show. Yes, we've made a lot of changes over the last 8 months or so. Coming into the pandemic, we obviously had a very steady on-trade business. It's about 17% of our business in North America, quite a lot more than that in our European business. But overnight, it shifted into the off-premise, and that did raise challenges for us in terms of sourcing cans, because we saw the consumers moving into cans primarily and large pack cans and going to big and trusted brands like Miller Lite and Coors Light. So certainly in the early days of the pandemic, we had a tough time keeping up with demand. And as we've gone further into the pandemic, we've really learned how to operate safely, keep our employees first, make sure they're safe, and we've scoured the world for cans. So we've got a substantial number of cans coming in from all parts of the world. We commissioned a new sleek can line, which has got a 750 million capacity per annum, and it's running very well. So we've adapted. We always had plans to adapt to the e-commerce space. And of course, during the pandemic, we've seen a substantial increase in e-commerce trade. I mean, our revenue from e-commerce in the US is up about 230%. And that's a consumer habit that I think is going to stick around, because before the pandemic, 80% of people didn't even know you could buy beer online, and now they do. And I think they'll continue to do so.
Well, I'm glad you got the cans, Gavin. I need my Coors Light on a Friday, especially after Jobs Day. It's been a heck of a week. But Excellent. Do you ultimately expect, listen, bars, really, you could speak to this better than I could. Bars have been closed. The entire beer industry has been hurt because of that, because of the pandemic. Do you expect those sales to come back?
Look, I do think, obviously the on-premise will come back. I think it's going to take a long time for it to come back to pre-pandemic levels. It doesn't matter what city or town you drive through in America, you're going to find a closed restaurant and a closed bar, and some of them are never going to come back. I do think that with consumers moving back to tried and trusted brands that they know and love and trust, like the Coors Light you're going to have tonight, or Miller Lite or Blue Moon, I think you're going to find those faster moving brands more readily available in the on-premise compared to a plethora of tap handles that might have been there before. So, when bars and restaurants did reopen in summer and towards the end of fall, we did see a tick up in the share of Miller Lite and Coors Light, primarily for that reason.
Gavin, I want to go back to the online sales, which you mentioned, because if you think about the alcohol category, at least as I think about it as a consumer, it tends to be a lot more spontaneous. I don't really know what I'm going to drink. I look at the taps. I say, that sounds good. If I'm shopping online, it has to be more deliberate. Are you changing how you're thinking about the kind of marketing program across the business with that in mind, or sort of weathering the storm as it is now and hoping that things go back into your wheelhouse maybe in a couple of years?
Well, we've certainly increased our capability in this space, not only from an IT point of view, but from a people resource point of view. We've put a number of increased roles into this area. And our marketing team and our media teams have adapted very quickly during the pandemic. So I think you will find that the presence that we had in online e-commerce sites before the pandemic and what we look like now are much, much different. And it's certainly in a much more positive way. As I said, I don't think this is a trend that's going to go away. It'll probably slow down a little bit. I mean, you can't keep growing at over 200% forever, but it's here to stay in our view, and we intend to be really at the front end of this.
Gavin, you caught my attention, and I suspect attention of a lot of folks on the street. On your last earnings call, you teased that you're starting to bring CBD drinks to the U.S. Have they launched, and what's your rollout plan there?
Yes, well, we did launch with THC ready-to-drink products up in Canada, and the early signs of those are doing really, really well. I mean, our data says that we're already the #1 RTD THC-infused beverage in Quebec, and we see a path to being the number one in the whole of Canada in short order. In the US, we've brought CBD products to Colorado. We actually launched them this week, so a little too soon to tell how they're going to do. But we're using the same brand names as we're using up in Canada. The product apparently tastes really good. I haven't had a chance to test it myself, but we're excited about it, and we intend to be a player.
And let's also talk about product innovation when it comes to seltzer, which we're showing on the screen right now. And I believe you have over your left shoulder. Seltzer has been huge, obviously. You guys are a little bit late to the party when it comes to seltzer. What's the rollout plan? What's the game plan to really try to grab some market share in that hot category?
You're right. I mean, we came into the year with less than 2% of the market. We've doubled that share. We're about 4% now. And we've got two brands in the marketplace at the moment with Vizzy and Coors Hard Seltzer. And we've got two more coming in the first part of next year, Topo Chico, Hard Seltzer, and then also Proof Point. We think those four brands are highly differentiated from themselves, and they're also highly differentiated from the marketplace. And we think that that's a powerful portfolio that we can bring to the consumer, the retailer, and our distributors. And we've put a goal for ourselves out there of getting to 10% market share by the end of next year, and we think that's a reasonable goal with the four brands that we're going to have.
Gavin, if there's one small knock here on Molson Coors, at least talking to the street, you guys are doing a lot. You have a lot of things going on in the company that perhaps you're just doing too much. How would you respond to that? And is there some form of a cost takeout program you're looking at to just more efficiently run your business, because maybe the core business of beer is not what it used to be?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head there, right? That was our plan, which we launched in October of last year. We restructured ourselves to declutter, to reduce bureaucracy, and make us put us in a place where we could act much more nimbly. And that's the plan we've been executing against this year. So, all the work that we've done over the last 8 months is exactly what we said we were going to do in October last year. Continue to focus on our big and iconic core brands of Miller Lite and Coors Light and Molson Canadian and Carling, push into the above premium space in a much more deliberate way, and then move into non-alc beverages and emerging growth space. We said we were going to do that. I think we've done it extremely effectively. We structured ourselves quite deliberately so that we wouldn't have each of these areas trip over each other, and it's working really well, actually.
Gavin, thanks for spending some time with us this morning. Gavin Hattersley is the Molson Coors CEO. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.